The headphone jack. In 2016, Apple removed the headphone jack from the iPhone 7. Samsung ran a global advertising campaign mocking them for it. The most widely seen ad showed a person standing in an Apple store, confused without an adapter.
Can I still use these headphones with the 10?
Yeah, but you'll need an adapter, or as most people like to call it, a dongle.
A what?
A dongle.
A dongle?
Yeah, a dongle. It comes in the box.
But what if I just need to charge at the same time?
Then you're gonna need another type of dongle.
Like a double dongle?
Yeah, double dongle, I guess.
That sounds explicit.
Cutting to a Samsung user comfortably plugging in their headphones. The tagline was implicit. "We would never do this to you." In 2020, Samsung removed the headphone jack from the Galaxy S20. The ads were deleted from Samsung's YouTube channel within days of the announcement. This detail is the one most coverage missed. The Samsung Galaxy Tab S series, Samsung's own tablet lineup, kept the headphone jack years after the phones lost it. The Galaxy Tab S7 FE, released in 2021, had a headphone jack. The Galaxy Tab S7 and S7 Plus, also released in 2021, did not, but the FE variant did, and the Tab S6 Lite, still available into 2022, had one. This proves the removal was not a technical necessity. It was a product decision. If the Tab series could keep the port while the phones removed it, the phones could have kept it too. Samsung chose not to, then deleted the evidence that they had ever claimed otherwise. The microSD card slot. For years, a $10 microSD card could double the storage on any Samsung flagship. The Galaxy S5, S4, S3, all of them accepted standard microSD cards. You could carry a spare, swap it like a digital wallet, and never worry about running out of space. The Galaxy S6, released in April 2015, was the first Samsung flagship to remove it. The reason given: the new unibody metal design required a sealed construction. The real signal from Samsung's own behavior, the backlash from S6 users, was significant enough that Samsung brought the microSD slot back on the Galaxy S7 in 2016. They had removed it, received the response, and restored it within one product cycle. Then they removed it again permanently on the Galaxy S20 in 2020. The internal reasoning that became public: Samsung argued that streaming services and cloud storage made local expandable storage increasingly unnecessary. That calculation was made for users with reliable, fast internet access. An estimated 600 million people globally lack consistent internet connectivity. For a user in a region with unreliable data access, a $10 microSD card was the difference between a functioning storage system and a phone that required a data connection to access their own content. Samsung removed the feature for markets where it wasn't needed while abandoning the users for whom it was irreplaceable. Samsung Pay MST. Samsung Pay had a technology that Apple Pay never had, and still doesn't. It was called Magnetic Secure Transmission, MST. To understand why it mattered, you need to understand how payment terminals work. Modern contactless payments use NFC, near-field communication, which requires a relatively new terminal with an NFC reader installed. The older way of paying was a magnetic stripe on a physical card, which the cashier's machine reads when you swipe. Most smartphones can only replicate the NFC part. MST was different. Samsung's MST technology generated a fluctuating magnetic field that replicated the signal of a physical card swipe without touching the reader. Hold a Galaxy phone near the card terminal, and the terminal received the same electromagnetic signal it would from swiping a physical card, not just modern NFC terminals. Every terminal that accepted card payments anywhere. The old machine at a hardware store that hadn't been updated in 10 years. The parking garage reader. The stadium concession stand. The small restaurant still running equipment from 2012. Samsung Pay worked everywhere. Apple Pay required NFC, which many terminals didn't support. This was a genuine, measurable advantage, and Samsung had it exclusively among major smartphone brands for years. In 2021, Samsung removed MST from the Galaxy S21 series. The stated reason: NFC contactless payments had become widespread enough to make MST unnecessary. The actual situation: research consistently showed that millions of payment terminals globally remained unable to accept NFC contactless payments as of 2021. In the US alone, NFC terminal penetration was estimated at around 70% at the time of the removal. The 30% of terminals that couldn't accept NFC, the ones MST served, were disproportionately concentrated in smaller businesses, older retail environments, and rural areas. Samsung removed the feature that made their payment system genuinely better than Apple's before the world had caught up to not needing it. The payment advantage Samsung had over Apple was quietly eliminated. Samsung Messages. Samsung Messages launched alongside the first Galaxy phones in 2009. It served as the default messaging application on Samsung Galaxy devices for 17 years. In July 2026, Samsung will shut it down completely. After the shutdown, users will not be able to send any messages through the app except to emergency contacts. The app wasn't retired because it failed technically. It wasn't retired because users wanted it gone. It was retired because of a business arrangement that became public in antitrust testimony. During Epic Games' antitrust lawsuit against Google, Google's vice president for partnerships James Koulaturos testified under oath that Google had agreed to pay Samsung $8 billion over 4 years, from 2020 to 2023, to make Google Search, the Google Play Store, and Google Assistant the defaults on Samsung's Galaxy devices. The commercial relationship that produced that $8 billion payment also produced the gradual migration of Samsung's own apps toward Google's equivalents. Samsung began making Google Messages the default messaging app on Galaxy S21 and newer hardware in 2021, the same year the payment period began. Samsung announced in 2024 that it would fully migrate to Google Messages. July 2026 is the final chapter. Samsung Messages wasn't killed because it was a bad product. It was killed because Google paid more to eliminate it than Samsung could justify keeping it. An app used by hundreds of millions of people for 17 years. Gone because of a revenue-sharing agreement. The users who relied on it were not part of the calculation. The Galaxy Note. The Galaxy Note created the large-screen smartphone category. Before the Note launched in September 2011 at IFA in Berlin, a phone with a 5.3-inch display was considered unusably large. Tech reviewers called it absurd. Consumers called it impractical. Samsung shipped it anyway and sold millions. The Note proved that a segment of users, professionals, power users, people who used their phone as a primary computer, wanted more screen, more capability, and a stylus they could use without squinting. The Note fan community was among the most dedicated in consumer technology. They bought every generation. They defended Samsung in online debates. They organized around the product. After the Note 7 battery disaster in 2016, where units were spontaneously igniting, banned from commercial flights in multiple countries, and recalled globally, Samsung could have retired the line. They didn't. The Note 8, Note 9, Note 10, and Note 10, plus all shipped. The line survived the disaster that should have ended it, because the fans demanded it continue. The Note 20 and Note 20 Ultra, released in August 2020, were the last. Samsung quietly folded the S Pen and large display feature set into the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Same stylus, larger screen, S Ultra branding. The Note was renamed and repackaged, and Samsung described it as an evolution rather than a discontinuation. Note fans were told this was an upgrade. The people who had spent years buying Note devices specifically because of what the Note represented, the brand, the identity, the design language, the community they had built around it, were handed a product that contained Note features but no longer carried the Note name, on a slightly different form factor, and told to call it Progress. Samsung's statement at the time used the word transform rather than discontinue. The Galaxy Note 20 Ultra stopped receiving major Android OS updates in early 2025 and was removed from Samsung's major update schedule by late 2025. The last device in the line that built Samsung's most loyal community is now effectively abandoned. Removable batteries. Until the Galaxy S6 in 2015, every Samsung flagship had a removable battery. This was not a small convenience. A spare battery cost approximately $15. Swapping it took under 30 seconds. A Samsung user with a spare battery had effectively infinite battery life. Charge one while using the other. Swap when needed. More importantly, a degraded battery after 2 years of use could be replaced in seconds rather than requiring a service visit. The Galaxy S6 introduced an aluminum and glass unibody design that required a sealed construction. The official reason was premium materials and structural integrity. The consequence: a Galaxy S24 with a degraded battery after 3 years of use requires an authorized service visit costing $80 to $150 to replace what used to cost $15 and take 30 seconds at home. Samsung's own iFixit repairability score dropped from 8 out of 10 on the Galaxy S5 to 3 out of 10 on the Galaxy S6, the year the removable battery disappeared. The feature that extended the usable life of Samsung phones for 2 to 3 additional years was replaced with a design that looks premium and requires professional repair. The users who lost the most were the ones who kept phones for 4 or 5 years, often people who could least afford to buy new ones. Samsung Pay MST and Dex on mid-range phones. Samsung Dex is the feature that turns a Galaxy phone into a desktop computer. Connect a Galaxy phone to a monitor via USB-C or wirelessly, and a full desktop-style interface appears. Taskbar, windowed apps, keyboard, and mouse support. It is genuinely useful and genuinely unlike anything Apple offers on iPhone. When Dex launched with the Galaxy S8 in 2017, it worked across Samsung's lineup. Samsung progressively restricted Dex to flagship-only devices as the Galaxy A series grew. The Galaxy A series is Samsung's mid-range lineup, the phones most people in the world actually buy. The Galaxy A54, A53, A52, no Dex. Dex requires minimal additional processing resources. The same phone hardware that runs Android can run Dex. The restriction was not technical, it was commercial. Dex was kept exclusive to justify flagship pricing. The productivity feature that would have differentiated Android from iPhone for users in developing markets, where the phone is the only computer many households own, was turned into a reason to pay more. Always-on display customization and the physical fingerprint scanner. Early Samsung always-on display, introduced with the Galaxy S7 in 2016, allowed custom images, animated GIFs, and third-party clock face applications from the Galaxy Store. Your lock screen could show a personal photograph even when the phone was asleep. You could display the album art of the song you were listening to, an animated design, or a clock face built by an independent developer. Over successive One UI software updates, Samsung progressively tightened the options. Third-party clock face apps were removed from the Galaxy Store. Custom image support was removed in a software update, specifically in One UI 5.1, which shipped in early 2023. With no prominent changelog entry explaining why. The always-on display available in 2026 shows clock formats, calendar information, and notification icons. The personalization available in 2018 no longer exists on any current Samsung device. The change generated consistent complaints across Samsung's community forums that ran for years. Samsung never responded to those complaints with an explanation. The physical fingerprint scanner removal has a similar shape. Until the Galaxy S8 in 2017, Samsung flagships had a physical fingerprint scanner built into the home button on the front of the phone. It worked instantly. It worked with wet fingers. It worked when the phone was lying flat on a table without picking it up. The Galaxy S8 moved the scanner to the back of the phone, adjacent to the rear camera, where users consistently reported accidentally smudging the lens. The Galaxy S10 introduced an ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner. In-display scanners require the screen to be on to work. Early Samsung in-display implementations were measurably slower than the physical button they replaced. Cold weather degraded performance because it changed the acoustic properties the ultrasonic sensor relied on, a problem Samsung forum users documented across multiple generations of devices. It took approximately 5 years for Samsung's in-display scanner to match the speed and reliability of the physical button it had replaced. Samsung has never returned to front-mounted physical fingerprint scanning on any flagship. The technology that worked better was replaced with the technology that looked more premium. Software support, the 7-year promise with fine print. In January 2024, Samsung announced a commitment to provide 7 years of software updates for flagship Galaxy smartphones. The announcement was widely covered as industry-leading. The fine print received significantly less coverage. The 7-year commitment applies to security updates, not major Android OS upgrades. Security updates and OS upgrades are different things. Security updates fix vulnerabilities in the existing software. OS upgrades add new features, improve performance, and maintain compatibility with new applications. The Galaxy S21, released in January 2021, received its last major Android OS upgrade in early 2025, 4 years into its life. It continued receiving security patches after that. But a Galaxy S21 in 2026 cannot run the features introduced in the most recent Android versions. Samsung's 7-year commitment sounds like 7 years of full support. It means 7 years of security patches and 4 years of new features. The distinction matters most to the people who buy flagship phones and expect them to remain fully functional for their entire supported life. 7 years of security patches on a phone with outdated features is not the same thing as 7 years of a current phone. Samsung has not corrected the public understanding of what their commitment actually includes. These are the features Samsung quietly removed. For the decisions Samsung made loudly and regretted publicly, every major Samsung mistake explained is on screen right now.